All right. Hey, what's up, everybody? We are live with the CBD Business Success Group and CBD Business Accelerator. I got a special guest today, Kyle Mallien. He's a true serial entrepreneur. A lot of people call themselves serial entrepreneurs, but Kyle is the real deal. And New Age Oils and Acquisitionpreneur are two of Kyle's many companies. I think he has like 20 now, but he'll tell us all about it. But thanks, Kyle. He's actually the most inspiring entrepreneur I know. So get ready, people. This is going to be a really good talk. So there you go. There's your intro.
Perfect, man. I appreciate you. Appreciate you having me on, Matt. You're a powerhouse connector, and I'm super excited to be here. I originally am not from the CBD space. As you can tell, the suits aren't liked in the CBD game, but I originally started in the electronics recycling space. So I did asset management, hard drive destruction, data recovery for Fortune 1000 companies. I built that up. In 2010, I started. I service companies like LG, Panasonic, Google, Yahoo, Lockheed Martin, all the biggest and the best brands here in San Diego. Built it up to about 1,100 corporate customers, and I sold that company in 2014 for my 30th birthday. Went to Houston, Texas, did the exact same business model. I serviced oil and gas, healthcare, school districts. Over 24 months, I sold that company. In 16, after 6 years of being in the space, I recognized an opportunity to be able to take my competitors and turn them into suppliers, and became focused on telecom and office phone equipment. This year, that company is 5 years old. Last year in 2020, during the pandemic, hit number 1465 on Inc. 5000's fastest growing company list.
Wow.
So we've had meteoric success in that space. Up along the way, as we were learning how to buy companies, sell companies, flip companies, add value, we started investing in value-add real estate, C-class value-add stuff in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and also in Cleveland, Ohio. Now we have 165 single-family homes. We have a construction management company. We have a management company that handles all of the rentals in the portfolio that we own 100% outright with zero debt.
Wow.
So we got into that space. And then in 2018, the CBD business came along. The Farm Bill got passed. We were looking at all the different opportunities in the space. And we thought that there was 40 licensed growers in South Carolina, but we knew that the metrics were going to 208. And so the natural choke point for the business model was going to be extraction. So we bought a 100,000 square foot facility from a guy that just retired. He used to grow tomatoes for the Burger King, all the Burger Kings in the Southeast. So we bought the building, we retrofitted it, 12 acres and 100,000 square feet, and we got into the extraction side. And so this game has been absolutely wild for us from an extraction standpoint, just because 2018, 2019 prices were very, very high. We invested a lot of money into the extraction equipment, which was $500,000, and at that time we'd be able to process and just run biomass and spit out a liter every 3 hours. And we're like, wow, this is great, $6,000 to $8,000 every 3 hours. This is incredible. Yeah. As you know, the market had shifted, but we just knew that we were in the right place at the right time, considering the choke points of the business and the start of the CBD model. And then over the last couple of years, we have kind of evolved into a marketing sales company and a white labeling company more than anything. The extraction, obviously, the money was in the bulk originally. And then as those prices have continued to drop, everybody's got to continue to pivot and get in where they fit in as best as possible. We are the type of guys that we don't like to launch a bunch of consumer brands. Consumer brands is a 1 out of 20 hit. We are more of in all of our other businesses, we're very deep in the wholesale chain. So we like to create relationships where if there's $10 on the table, give us the first 3. And we'll find a distributor, we'll find a wholesaler, and then everybody gets $3. And at the end, the customer gets a really good deal at $9 with $1 off at the retail. So there's all these pieces in supply chain. We're an ingredient supplier first and foremost. We like to buy the platform company and then buy different pieces of the supply chain to increase our profit margins in the business model. So that's been our evolution and start with the CBD game. And this is where we currently reside right now.
Gotcha. And so as far as bulk, what are you mainly working on these days?
Distillate and D8 as well.
Oh, cool. So people reach out to me and I can connect you to Kyle if you're looking for any bulk in those areas. And also white label to people. So that I work with Kyle on all that stuff. So feel free to reach out and ask me any questions. And so like I talk to CBD brands, probably 20 brands, 15 to 20 brands a week that are either about to launch or already have launched. And I would say one of the top 5 concerns they come to me with is they say, Matt, I need funding. How do I go out and get funding? And a lot of them aren't as savvy as you are as an entrepreneur. They're maybe new to the industry. And so, oh, sorry, there's a little tech issue happening. Oh, it's still going. Okay. And so what are the first things a CBD brand needs to do to get their ducks in a row when they're going out to get funding?
So I also have a company called Acquisitionpreneur. Our business model, and our business model is to buy businesses $1 to $5 million, add value, turn around and take them back to the open market to resell those companies to middle market, right? So 10 to 50 million.
Gotcha.
If you're launching a brand, you got to get very granular on how do you make money? Where is your distribution? I would say the biggest mistake that most brand owners make when they come into this business is, I'm a connoisseur of this product. I love this product because I want it to look like I want it to look like, and it's going to sell to everybody that's just like me. And while that's a great strategy, you need to really consider, who is your audience? Is your audience, the topical 55 to 65 luxury women, where is this audience and where do they reside and where can I get distribution in that model? If your distribution model goes to convenience stores, that's one type of customers. If it's going to pro athletes and gym and health and fitness people, that's another demographic. If you're going to the health and wellness sector, that's a completely another demographic. So I think first and foremost, before you start to try to raise money, you got to understand, what's my minimum viable product? What product am I going to take, and to what audience am I going to be talking to? I think it's very, very important to understand who you're talking to, because this is going to help us identify what traffic sources we can purchase, where we're going to put that to get the greatest ROI. At the end of the day, the days of let me build this product and it's just going to show up and it's going to build it and they will come is wrong, right? Like it doesn't work anymore. You need to have a clear execution strategy of like, if I build this product for this audience at this price and in this category and in this fishing pool, I know I could potentially catch some customers, but I need to have money to spend.
Sorry to interrupt you, but even still, you said potentially. So with even all the ducks in a row, you still might not hit a home run.
It could be your creative. It could be the taste of the product. It could be the price point. It could be the time of the month. It could be all of these things we don't know until we start testing. And one thing that I really realized when we shifted over from investing in startup companies to investing in, $1 to $5 million companies was like the 0 to $1 million. Companies kind of operate in buckets: 0 to 300, 300 to $1 million, $1 million to 3 million, 3 million to 10 million, 10 million to 50. And so every one of those buckets has different sets of challenges and different levels of progression. 0 to 300, maybe you have 1 or 2 employees. You haven't really figured out the art of delegation. You're the cook, the baker, the candlestick maker, the trash man. You're everything to the company, and you haven't learned delegation, right? At 300 to $1 million, you've really got 1 or 2 people. You got an assistant, you got somebody that provides sales, and you got a couple of people. You get a minimum viable product. The customers like it, the market likes it, but you haven't done enough of it to really get all the analytics of like, how do I leverage up? How do I do more of what was working? And how do I get rid of the things that weren't? And then $1 million to 3 million. Now you have key people within the companies to where you have sales, operations, and finance. And then you are the owner or the operator of the business. You're not at 10,000 feet. Now you're at 30,000 feet. And at this phase, you are investing in leadership around you. You are investing in the people, the managers, the fulfillment people. You're investing in all of these moving parts within the company without you doing everything to everyone type of a situation. So your investment is really into your management. And then 3 to 10 million. Now it's a professionalization process of like, how do I get all the things Matt's good at within my company all down on a piece of paper in a 30-step process of his daily processes so that we can have a transferable asset so that we can sell this company at a later date. When we start companies, we acquire them, because we can skip all the brain damage of what worked, what didn't work, who's my audience, who's not my audience, what, does this price point work, does this packaging work, all these other things. We can get straight to the meat of, okay, this is a minimum viable deal. I already have a list of assets. I already have a list of customers that we sold stuff to over the last 2 years. I know I could buy this traffic asset or this Facebook group or this education publication and run traffic to it with my products and make money and skip all of this stuff, right? And so that's really the core focus of what we try to focus on. Now, how does somebody with no money raise money to start something? And of course, the immediate obvious answer is family and friends. Kyle, get it. I don't know anybody that's got 50 or 100 grand to throw at this. Dude, totally get it. We have a relationship with a company in Florida that actually does what's called credit card stacking. This is something, there's a lot of different funding sources out there, but I think this is an interesting one because it gives a lot of oomph without a lot of risk, right? So you would take your business credit corp and you would sign up to basically get credit cards. And they take you through the process of collecting 0 APR credit cards to, you get qualified for 20,000 here, or 20,000 there, or 50,000 here. And then now you can use that money as operational capital in both advertising, inventory, finance, the things that you need to do to flip product, right? Even if it's at a little bit higher of an interest rate, credit cards are a great opportunity. The amount of people that want to lend on somebody that has just a good idea, I know as a small guy, you think, man, this is the best idea since sliced bread. But people that are outside looking in are looking for safety and security. They want to know that their money is protected. They might like you as a person. They might love everything that you have to say. But if you can't show them an executable strategy that says, I can do this, and I can sell this and make this amount of profit, it's not very quantifiable, right? It's not very scalable. So the amount of people that are going to bet on a startup and idea outside of family and friends is very few and far between, unless you have something that is like unbelievable, right? And even then, it's not my game. We don't.
It's very rare. Yeah. Like I consulted with one CBD brand. They valued themselves at $4 million and went out and raised 400 grand with no sales, just a pitch deck and ideas. But it was a cool brand. But that's so rare. Like I haven't seen that often.
It's such an anomaly, and I don't want people to think that like that's the status quo and that's how you do that, because it creates a sense of delusion. Yeah. And here's the thing about buying and trading companies and seeing a lot of companies. First off, 95% of companies that get started fail in the first 5 years. Why do I do acquisitions? Because the failure rate is less than 2%. If they've been around for more than 5 years, there's a chance that they're going to continue on, keep it on. But if they're a startup, the failure rate is very, very high. And so,
and that's the thing, like as a CBD entrepreneur, you should have multiple sources of income. So looking into acquiring existing companies, even not even CBD brands, just anything else that might, be up your alley that you have a background in, could be a viable side hustle, or maybe not. I don't want to call it a side hustle, but just another income source, like how Robert Kiyosaki preaches, you want to get into that quadrant of being a business owner and having various different businesses underneath your belt. So like Kyle just said, I mean, if you acquire a business, there's only a 2 to 3% failure rate because it's an existing company that's already bringing in net profits and it has a track record.
And there's a lot of advantages to acquiring something. And a lot of people think, well, I need a $2 million company. How am I going to go buy a $2 million company? Some of the best 8-figure deals we have done have been equity earn-ins that have cost us no money out of pocket to be able to get into those deals. But we've been able to create such an immense value for that business owner that was going through something that was maybe being suffocated by success and didn't have the right people and processes and systems in place to be able to scale the company. The minute we came into the deal, we were able to make them way more money. And instead of working 80 hours a week, they could work 20 hours a week, focusing on just what they're good at. This is always what I preach. Your business is only going to be as good as your personal development and how big you're going to think. If you think nobody can do what I can do as well as I can do it, you are going to be limited and bottlenecked at that spot.
But I got to stop thinking like that.
I look, I am on the same way. Maybe you're a perfectionist. Maybe you're, you don't want to trust somebody with.
Nobody can close like me, man. Nobody can close.
I know. But let me ask you, okay, would it be okay if you were to get somebody that could close half of the deals that you could, if you could buy 80% of your time back. Would you be okay with half of the deals lost?
Yeah.
Absolutely, because I just bought my time of my space back, right? I just bought. This makes this a way more pleasurable experience. And the only way that we're able to operate 16 businesses at this point, look, I didn't come from anything. I grew up in rural Wisconsin, single mom. My dad passed away when I was 16 years old of brain cancer. My mom raised my brother and I, worked 2 jobs just to take care of us. I had 2 DUIs when I was in high school. I sat my senior year of homecoming. I sat 10 days in jail because I had my second DUI at 17 years old.
Oh man!
I barely graduated high school. I dropped out of my first semester in college and got into the mortgage business. And I learned all these high acquisition skills, marketing skills, sales processes at a young age. And I rode that till I was about 25. 25, I lost everything. And I went out and I raised a bunch of money to be able to buy this trash company in California. And I moved 2,500 miles away from it. Look, I did not come from money. I don't know money. I only know what I do, and I teach what I have done. And so I know how you're feeling when you're thinking like, oh man, I can do everything. I will be everything. I will do the customer service, and I will call the customers, and I will make sure that they get the best deal, and I will make sure they get the best price, and I will deliver the deal, and I'll call them to make sure that they got it. All of these things, man. And the thing is like you'll never grow. And that's really like a big learning curve.
Yeah, it's happened with me. Like over the past year or so, I got an assistant. I have operations team now. I have other consultants, like 15 consultants on the team instead of before I was working 13 hours a day, burning myself out. And it's still a work in progress, but it's getting better and better. And you just have to keep evolving as an entrepreneur, people. And the best CBD brands that I work with, they are quarterbacks. The CEO is just a quarterback, and they have a team executing. And they don't do everything. And the best brands that I work with, they usually do 1 or 2 things really good, and they focus on those things, and they're not distracted by all the shiny objects.
I mean, think about all the things that you hate to do in your business. For me, I don't like customer service. I'm a high-level guy, not a details guy. Like, I have all these deficiencies, right? But I'm really good at working with the people and getting deals structured, and I like managing my clients via text, and we're all friends, right? Like, it's a win-win-win. Everybody makes money. And so if you can bring in key players, and I know this is a tough concept, especially if you're small or you're new or you're under 300,000, if you can bring in key players, your brother, that's the first thing that's the first person I brought into my organization was my brother, somebody I can trust, somebody I know that is not going to be stealing from me, somebody I know that is going to say the exact same things that I would say whether I was there or not. When you bring key partnerships into your life, you are able to flex on all of your talents. So now imagine, rather than spending 50% of my time with the things that I don't like, the things that suck energy from me, the things that I absolutely hate, customer service, finances, compliance, all this other nonsense, I can only focus on getting more customers, and he does all that. Well, now we just doubled. Yeah. Then we tripled, then we quadrupled. I mean, there was a point there where we were growing so fast, like we were hiring, and your responsibilities would shift to be like, oh, will this work, to like, I got to get more people to fulfill this. You're always going to be somewhere in between, like, too much marketing, not enough marketing. Too much cash, not enough cash. Too much fulfillment, not enough fulfillment. And figuring out, like, who can help me with the what, so I can expand my efforts and I can focus on my thing.
I'm exactly right there right now with one of my companies. And so it's funny, like you're describing where I'm at, this kind of pendulum.
People are the key. Listen, we're in the CBD business just like everybody else. At the end of the day, we're an ingredient supplier. We're a sugar maker. It's the same thing.
It's an ingredient. That's what me and Paul Booth have said since day one. CBD is just an ingredient.
I don't want to compete based on the price of sugar, right? What I want to do, I bought a bottling company, and then we bought a piece of a bakery, and then we bought a piece of a this and a that. And every time, if there's $10 on the table, I'm getting an extra 50 cents. I'm getting an extra $1, and it's increasing my margins. But now I'm not just competing on price anymore. You can't be everything to everyone. You have to be laser focused on your audience, on your offer, on your product, and then where you're going to go with it next. And it really comes down to building your team.
And how important would you say is like a pitch deck and a business plan when you're going to get funding, especially as a startup? Like, should the business plan be like 100 pages? Should it be simple? Like, what are you looking for as a guy that I know you see like 30 to 50 deals every week?
Yeah, I get 30 to 50 DMs of deals every single week. The way to get my attention is to put it on one page and hit me with the facts. Get me with a hook, right? Like, what's the one thing that you have that nobody else has? Traffic, contacts, an amazing product that's not out there already, or a crevice in the market. Maybe you've identified with all your data that, this product is moving at these dispensaries at this type of a price rate, and you have this connection. Give me some logical thing. Don't hit me with a vanilla, I have a 30-page pitch deck, I make $0, and I need $1 gazillion from you, because it's out of sight, out of mind. I see, and every investor sees a bunch of those. Right? So you have to really consider who's your audience. How do you cater something to them that really makes the most amount of sense and has the most impact? If you are going to do a pitch and you do have a multi-step process and you do have a relatively complex chain, start with the problem first. What is the problem that you are solving, and why is your company unique? Okay. At best, you're going to look at a 10-page pitch deck. I personally like a 1-page outline. I want to know the player. I want to know your background and the relevancy to this deal. And here's the big thing that every investor won't tell you, right? It's only as good as the person that's running the company. My investment in the company, I am betting on the jockey. I am not betting on the horse, right?
100%.
And so if that jockey comes from a nutraceutical space, or comes from the vitamin space, or comes from the food packaging world, and they have an insider track on something, and they're just kind of recalibrating the model a little bit, that's really interesting, because I can see how they can sell it. They have distribution in place. They have a unique something, right? A unique edge in the market. That's the only way I would invest in a startup company. I think bootstrapping is important if you are a startup. I think credit card stacking, SBA funding, some of these other startup methods that, are worth exploring at this point. But the best thing you could possibly do as a startup is sell your way out of it. Don't incur a lot of debt. If you believe you can sell this item for $12 and manufacture it for $3, prove it to me. Show me a proof of concept. Don't sell me pie in the sky. Don't give me a pro forma that's completely out of whack. Don't give me this big long. People get caught up in the techno babble. I'm gonna invent this, and once we do this, we're gonna achieve this, and once we achieve that, we're gonna achieve this. I'm like, yeah, but dude, you can't sell this $3 product for $12 today. Go to the gas station and you can sell this. Right?
That's hilarious. Oh, real quick too. Like, okay, say somebody gives you a 1-pager and you love it. You're like, I really want to. I think I like this idea. Then do you ask for a detailed business plan at that point, or is it good enough to just give a few details and then go forward with a deal, or do you want to see like something more extravagant as far as a business plan at that point?
The biggest thing that I want to see is the track record, and again, I want protection of capital, and that's what every investor is going to want. Some guys will take flyers and say, "Oh, that's a $50,000 bet here." Well, I'll invest in this golf cart company or this, airplane, in upholstery refurbishing company. I'll take a flyer on this thing for $50,000 and see how it works. But inside where you're launching consumer brands have a super high flop rate, right? So 1 out of 20 are going to hit. You need to be able to explain why your consumer brand is going to be able to hit and why it is a safe investment above all else. Again, that starts with a track record. That starts with industry information. That starts with having a contact that can help you get into 20,000 convenience stores overnight, or has an ingredient for a D8 syrup for a rapper that's already using another product, a similar product, but he wants to take it to his audience. There's all these intricacy things, and you're one deal away. You're literally one contact away from having a completely viable business and a complete flop. My suggestion to you is don't invest in the, have that part figured out before you start to build all the other stuff. The website and the branding and the this and the that are all very important. But people go, "Oh, I got my website done and I got my business card done. Now what?" I'm like,
dude, such a good point, Kyle. Like, I can't tell you how many Zoom calls I have with brands where I have to tell them, in my opinion, you're going to have to redo everything from scratch. And they're like, but I spent 200 grand on all my branding and website and swag gear and all. I'm like, this is just my opinion, but I don't think you're going to succeed and these are, some of them are really not good brands. And so that's like Paul Booth says, audience, message, product. You got to start with the audience first.
That's right. 100%. And Paul is spot on with his teaching there. I mean, it's 100% right. And sometimes you're going through this process and people don't know what their business model is. They don't know what type of animal they are, right? We started out as the extraction company. We got all this equipment. We got this building and we got this and we got that. And the next thing you know, like, oh, we're moving over to a marketing and sales. Well, now the equipment changes and so does the audience. Now we're not dealing with bulk guys that are putting those products into products. Now you're dealing with somebody that wants to start a product that wants to use your products to formulate. And so then as you keep going down the supply chain, that audience keeps changing and so does your messaging. Now, does your original brand still make sense when you're 2 years down the pipe? It may or may not. It just kind of depends. But I hate it when people go out and they spend a ton of money because I can literally get started today. I've had companies where we've made $50,000 and we didn't even have the LLC set up yet. We wanted to see it. We wanted to see it. Like, okay, the best way to prove this model out is to try to go sell something.
Yeah.
Right? We can talk hypotheticals. We can talk, oh, I can do this, I can do that. I think I can bring an elderberry syrup to market and I think it's going to crush. Really? Go sell it. Prove it to me. Get some POs. And then all of a sudden we can start to make shape of what the company is, the audience that we serve, and then we can serve them at the highest level. We don't have to say, oh, well, we were this, now we're this, right?
Yeah.
People end up as accidental entrepreneurs and it doesn't always work out the way you want. And sometimes they're just trying to fight that identity. And I'm telling you right now, save your money on the upfront, design your audience, then come back once you have a proof of concept of like, how are you going to take that MVP, that minimum viable product, sell it, and now we can work backwards.
100%. That's great advice there. And like, how does a brand, let's say I'm an existing company and I want to go out and get more funding or I want to get a equity partner. And I'm doing 20 grand a month in sales. Maybe I'm netting $8,000 a month. How do I decide my valuation?
Yeah, that's really interesting. So there's a couple of different ways to value a company. And there's the amateur way, there's the professional way. But let me just get to the punchline. The market determines the price. The company is only worth what the market is worth. Yeah. At the end of the day, I talk to people that are, they're in the alcohol and beverage distribution business, and they say, oh, well, companies and brands in this area trade for 30 times gross earnings. I'm like, okay, so you mean to tell me that because you sell $1 million worth of alcohol and beverages in this category, but make no profit, you think you're worth $30 million? You are sadly mistaken. Yeah. The market is only going to pay you what it's worth. And so typically the market will pay you a multiple of your net revenue, right? So a quick way to do this in the amateur world, anything less than $5 million, it's going to be 3 to 5 times net earnings. So if you're making $100,000 a year, 3 to 5 times earnings. The smaller the number, the smaller the multiple. The closer to 5 million, the better the multiple. Once you get above 5 million and you have $2 million of at least EBITDA or seller discretionary earnings or free cash flow profits, once you get above $2 million of profits, you attract a different type of a buyer. Those buyers are going to be family offices, hedge funds, investment bankers, smart money, high net worth folks, and they'll value your company a little bit differently than somebody else. Now, if you're selling to somebody inside the business already, right? Like let's say I'm an extraction company and I want to get into the gummies business, right? For me to go and buy a gummies business, that's what's called a bolt-on. So that bolt-on is going to get a different valuation than a platform. The platform would be something like me getting into the extraction business. I'm going to buy the extraction business. Now that's my entrance into the market, whether I do the gummies and I do the formulations and I do the white label shipping and branding and blah, blah, blah. Like this is my platform. And now these are all the other things that I can do, right? But when it comes to valuations, very, very simple. It's going to be 3 to 5 times net earnings on a realistic base. A lot of people are going to disagree with me. They're going to say, oh, CBD is so trending. Oh, this category is hyper growth, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, it's all situational, and it depends on what you're selling right now, what you've done in the last. I do what's called a 9-year ramp. I look at the previous 3 years. I look at the last 12 months. And I look at the future 5 months. That's called a 9-year ramp. I pay based on that last 12 months worth of earnings.
Yeah.
And so right now, business has completely exploded because we're looking at companies that have gone through coronavirus that have been recently depressed. There's no better time than right now to buy a company. Number one, the money is very, very cheap from the banks, SBA, EIDL, PPP money. All the money is out there for businesses that have been impacted by Corona, but that also means that the lending rules are very, very loose. And so great time to buy because there's a lot of financing available, but a great time to buy because the last 12 months, the window has been really suppressed on what your sales have been.
Definitely.
So it's based on the last 12 months worth of earnings and a factor or a multiple of that net number.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that's great advice too. And so if you're looking to do something in addition to your CBD brand, now is the time to look into acquiring existing companies. And Kyle has programs in that area as well. There's a good investment, but it's well worth it. It's like, I was like, man, you could add a zero to what you charge for your programs and people would still join. So,
we're not teachers, we're not consultants. I told you guys my story. We come from very humble means. I just get so many DMs on a weekly basis. We want to concentrate all those efforts into one spot. I only know what I go through on a daily basis. I don't make money, doing courses or coaching or teaching. I make money doing deals with hand-to-hand combat, right? So I know on the front lines what guys are doing. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. And so right now, if you are thinking about growing through acquisitions, it's the cheapest, safest, smartest, quickest way to grow your company, especially if you're focused on one thing. Think about buying a company that's not making any money. Think about buying a company, and I don't teach turnarounds. I don't teach buying companies that are insolvent. But think about the assets that those folks have. Think about the email list that they have that they maybe not be marketing to appropriately. Think about somebody that sold 1,000 tinctures in a certain audience. Let's say that they're selling pet treats and they're going out of business, right? But you only do topicals, tinctures, and gummies, right? Now you want to get into the pet product space. You could buy that defunct company's assets, right? Their email list, their current customer list, their product designs, all this other stuff, and revive it and make a whole new ad campaign and a whole new revenue source for yourself when you didn't offer that product line before.
Interesting. Right? I love the way you think, man. You're very creative. You always think outside the box, man. And so say somebody was trying to do that kind of strategy, where could they find businesses for sale? I
mean, groups, right? Facebook groups are an incredible spot to do it. Cold calling, some of the best deals I've ever gotten have just, I cold call a company and I just love on them. Hey man, I love your product. I thought it was like the Chick-fil-A service. I love the taste of this. I thought your price point was accurate. Hey, if you're ever thinking about selling, would you be interested in that? You would be surprised how many people, when you say, hey man, have you ever thought about selling your company? People are like, ding, 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 ding.
Oh, yeah. Like, what do you want to offer me?
How big is your wallet, right? And so it's interesting because it at least just engages that conversation. Well, listen, I'm a buyer. I buy companies for a living. That's the most non-threatening sale you could ever make to somebody. If you've ever thought about selling your company and you're thinking about selling this one, and people sell for a number of reasons. They're burnt out of the industry. They're bored. They got another rocket that just took off in another space. Entrepreneurs are very ADD, scatterbrained. Yeah. At least me, I am, me right? Too. And so I get very chase this, chase that, right? Like I got all this deal flow and I can't keep up with it. And sometimes just because I sell something, it doesn't mean that it was bad. It just means that I'm going to make $1 million from that. I'm going to make 10 million from this. Where's my time best spent, right? And so sometimes opening up those conversations with brands that you like and love and admire is, and say, look, I'm an investor. I'm interested in, potentially buying some companies in this space. If you ever think about it, keep me in mind. That's very, very non-threatening. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, there's constant deal flow there. And especially companies that are insolvent or not making any money. We know from a brand standpoint, you can look very big. You can look very good. You can look very awesome. And at the end of the day, you are broke, struggling, trying to make money. And you don't know, and nobody else knows that, right? Their branding is so good.
Oh yeah, I've been tricked a bunch of times.
You have a candid conversation with them, and you're like, yeah, well, we do this, we do that, not really making a lot of money. And you reverse engineer the actual profits that you're making. You're like, look, I could give you $20,000 for this, list of customers and all this branding and stuff that you've done, because really you could go get a job for $15 an hour and make more money doing this. right? And some people treat this more as a hobby than they do a business. I think that there's tremendous opportunity there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I love that. And a lot of people are not thinking in that way too. So like just being really creative with your thinking, people, and like let's say you you need funding. Is a loan or equity a better option for a company that's like in the startup phase? Is it better to take on a partner or get a loan, in your opinion, when let's say you're only doing like 100, 200 grand a year at this point, and you want to take on some funding?
My rule to equity partners are you need to have equal or more value than the deal. Meaning you can't just come in for money, right? You got to have some sort of expertise. You got to have some sort of edge for me. You got to have some access to clients or distribution or a contact or somebody to make this make sense to me. That's me. That's my preference. All of this stuff is risk, reward, and how you feel about it, right? Of course, you could raise debt, and you could raise credit cards, right? Like the credit card stacking opportunity, like I was talking before. That partner is actually doing a program where they get you $125,000 worth of 0 APR credit in the first 6 months guaranteed, right? Wow. So they also have a payment processor where you could do cash advances. Rather than paying the 15% cash advance, you could run through their payment processor, pay 2.85%. Now you have that money, $120,000, $150,000 as operating capital within the company to be able to spend on Facebook ads, on PPC ads, on fulfillment, on products, on whatever, shelf space, whatever you're going to spend it on. So I would always say if that partner adds something unique to the sales operations or finance, I would consider it.
Yeah.
But if I can bootstrap and find my own debt, even if it is at a higher rate, I mean, at the end of the day, it's high risk. A startup is very, very high risk. So the rates are going to be high, but you can get it done. Of course, you can share that risk with somebody else, but now you're also going to share half of those profits once you do get moving in the right direction.
Yeah, so it's a tough call to make, but
it's a preference thing.
Yeah, gotcha. And so the credit stacking service, people can reach out to me or you if they want to get more info on that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to send that information on. Just have them go through you, and we can talk about all those people, get them connected direct.
Awesome. And one thing, people, 100%, if you're not following Kyle on Facebook, you need to follow him on Facebook. It's Kyle Mallien, Mallien. He posts every single day, like literally like clockwork, and it's the most amazing content, people. It's so valuable. So definitely follow Kyle there. And that goes to another question. Like, what's your daily routine? Because I see that you post every day, so that must be part of your daily routine.
I think the posting on social for me has become a therapeutic thing because I talk about the things that I'm going through and the deals that we're going through or how I feel about something. And I'm not like one of those people that like, I don't care whether we do business or not, right? like we have 16 companies under management. We have $140 million in revenues. I don't care whether we do business or we don't. So because I'm not trying to sell you something, like I'm just telling you what I'm going through, I think it creates this like voyeuristic perspective where people are like, dude, I wonder what is going on in this game. Like, how is he making the connections that he's making? And I'm happy to share all that stuff because I really believe the key to our success has been given, right? I mean, I think we live in a world of freaking takers that are like, excuse me, sir, can you help me with this? Can you help me? Let me ask you about, and like, it's just a world of takers rather than being like, Matt, what can I do for you today? Buddy, what's going on in your world? And like, how could I serve you, right? Like, it's very, very simple when you can flip the script and tell somebody, what key contact could I share out of my Rolodex that may make your life a better place?
Yeah.
And by doing that little exercise, it kind of creates a moment of gratitude, but it also creates an opportunity of like, if I know I create you an extra $100,000 in income a year by giving you one of my contacts that really didn't cost me a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of energy, okay, the universe is going to pay me back some way, somehow. Matt's not going to pay me back. That's okay. I'm going to get the value that I created for Matt somewhere else. And so if you kind of live with that kind of state of mind, and that's kind of where I try to live, is live in a place of a go-giver attitude of like, how can I help this guy with, and really serve somebody at the highest level.
I love that book, Go Giver. That's a great book.
Fantastic reading, right? And
yes.
So if you can be focused on giving without, expecting a return in advance, it creates a different conversation for people because, and so that's what I'm trying to do with the social side. I'm telling my stories. If you'd be so kind to follow me and watch my stories, it's
oh, they're incredible, man.
Insights, I think.
Yeah.
So, what does my day look like? I'm a married guy with 2 kids, so there's the necessary chaos, right? I start every morning off with a fasted cardio 40-minute session and 35 minutes in infrared sauna. I'm focused on the daily activities. 9 o'clock, I have daily huddles with one of my companies, and I think it's really, really important. Kind of like a quarterback, right? In all of your companies where you're hey, 15 minutes a day with all my people. Hey, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? What were the wins yesterday? What were the losses yesterday? What are all of these things that we need to get through and digest? And then the rest of the day is hang on for the pre-scheduled meetings throughout the course of the day. You would think that like there's a rhythm and an order to an extent, but really I'm here today and gone tomorrow in a lot of cases. And some of it is just being available and adjusting. I do try to focus on more revenue generating activities. We have an e-commerce company, for example, that we built a software for. And one of the things that we did was built a software so that our people could focus on revenue generating activities rather than order fulfillment. We realized that at any given time, they might have 26,000 to 30,000 open orders per day to ship. Okay. And so by creating this tool or this software, it would actually, the fulfillment and the delivery would communicate with each other so that they would actually fill in real time. And by doing that, it bought back 50% of our VA's time to fulfill orders. Now they can focus 100% of their time on revenue generating activities rather than order fulfillment. I try to think about my life in the exact same way. What sucks energy from me? What do I hate to do? What's a horrible task that I could put somebody in that spot so I don't burn out? And then how do I focus on the revenue generating activities, relationships, meetings and other people that I can add value to and can receive value from, so I can create more revenue rather than the order fulfillment and the design and the things that I hate to do. Right. So I try to live in that vibe.
That's awesome, man. It just all comes back to delegating and being a leader and focusing on revenue generating activities. Those are the points that I hear you echoing, and it's just like the most successful entrepreneurs. I think it was Bill Gates and Warren Buffett were sitting with Bill Gates' mom at dinner, and she asked him, "What makes you two so successful?" And they both said, "Focus," at the same exact time is what the story is. So it's important, to focus on what's going to make money too. Like, what do they say? Sales cures everything.
I mean, if you had money to 5-year problems, 4 of them go away. That's just a reality, right? And so how do we focus on those things that move the needle? I think so many entrepreneurship is a lonely place in a lot of regards. We're lone wolves. People don't understand what we're going through. I talked to my wife. She doesn't care if we made $3 million or $3 today. When I get home, she's like, "What's for dinner?" Like, there's no connect there, at that level for anybody to really understand what we're going through or how we're living, right? And so part of that is like when we talk to our customers and our supply chain people, part of what we're going through is the minutia of our daily life and like finding other people to sympathize and empathize what we're going through. And if we can focus more on the things that move the needle, that create the revenue, create those synergistic efforts, create the entourage effect with all these other people, we're going to come out way further ahead. The art of delegation is a really, really tough thing, but it's been key to, building businesses has been who to do the what. And then I start to invest in those people because those become my frontline people. I am embarrassed to say that I don't know all of our employees' names on a first and last name basis, but that's only because the way that we've designed the system to where we have managers here, sales, operations, and finance. They have managers underneath them, fulfillment, procurement, retail, blah, 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 blah. People underneath them. And then you have this structure to where, you're 4 or 5 levels deep. Like, we're dealing with the problems at 30,000 feet and like infusing leadership and wisdom and strategy rather than dealing with like the day-to-day minutia of like, okay, this order went bad. What's that going to cost us? Like, not my concern right now.
Yeah, it'll drive you nuts if you had to deal with all that every day. In addition to everything else you're doing, it's just you have to get better and better as an entrepreneur. Otherwise, you're just going to get stagnant and just get crushed.
Your business is always going to be broken. It's always going to feel like there's deficits in it. I mean, again, like some days you're like, God, where's all the sales? And other days you're like, guys, there's so many POs. Can you get the orders out the door? Right? Like, you're always going to have these challenges. And the good news is, like, you're just like everybody else. You're not special. This is just a matter of finding the right people and the right processes. The key people. I don't care how good your product is. The best ideas die on the lips of the smartest people because they can't communicate how to communicate to the right audience. They can't communicate what they're trying to do. They can't communicate how to build effective leaders around them. You know, a guy with a C grade product but a marketing engine will always win better than an A grade guy with no marketing system, right? And so, you know, it's finding that happy medium and being okay with the, like, look, this is broken. Yes, I'm not perfect. I'm the first one to get on the phone with the client to be like, look, yeah, I'm sorry I didn't get this done. You know, like, I'm not a bullshitter. I'm just a straight, like, and people appreciate that, and vice versa. Like, I just want the straight, hard truth. Shoot me straight. You know, let's not get fancy about it. I help you, you help me.
Yeah. So it's just all about being, I think, you got to know what you want, but you got to be flexible at the same time as an entrepreneur, and just constantly growing and tweaking things and just looking at things. And the best brands that I've seen, like, they notice things really fast, like things that are working or not working, and then they pour their energy into those things and they fix them, or they pour the fire on it, and they notice it quickly. Like, because this industry, you're in multiple industries. How fast would you say the cannabis and CBD industry is compared to other industries?
I've never seen anything like this. I mean, I feel like we're always building on sand. I feel like what's here today is going to be gone tomorrow. I feel like, you know, we could get whacked in the head at any time, you know, just with something stupid. You know, it's an ingredient. I mean, let's be real about this. I mean, you know, in New York, they were banning flour, but then now medical rec is legal. Like, what? How does that make sense in the same 6-month window? I mean, there's all these things that you feel like you could be coming out of business tomorrow. It's important to forecast where you're going to be in 90 days, 180 days, but it's also important to stay grounded and keep your stops nice and tight to where you're at today, your ad budgets, your marketing budgets, knowing what you're doing. It's okay to take losses right now. You know, that's the other thing, is a lot of people are not willing to take losses and learn something. You don't really lose anything until you stop, right? And that's how our business has evolved, is like, oh, wow, we got this facility, we got the lab built out, we got this thing built, we got all this stuff done out. And then, like, all of a sudden the market changes a little bit and you think of it as a sunk expense. Nothing's done yet, right? When you're pivoting, you're moving on to the next customer, and your business is evolving. Then all of a sudden you get a huge spike and all those losses don't matter anymore, right? Yeah. So you have to be malleable with it. If you fail within the business, you're doing it right? Like, you're going to have these things. They're just events. They're not your identity. It's okay to be like, this is a loser. Don't stay pot committed to something because you're like, oh, this is the right thing to do. Oh, my mom, my family members are going to judge me because I came out and I made this idea and I told everybody about like, toss that loser on the carcass pile and, like, let's move on to the next thing.
Exactly. And the biggest entrepreneurs that I know, they make mistakes all the time, big mistakes, and they just keep going. And one of the most successful entrepreneurs I know, he said he has pronoia, the opposite of paranoia. He thinks everything is for his good, and he really believes it. And he hits home runs, but he makes a ton of mistakes, and he even trademarked "make mistakes," and he has the T-shirt.
The greatest baseball players of all time. The most home runs have the most strikeouts. I mean, this is the bottom line. And, like, you know, take your losses in silence. It's okay to not tell everybody what you're trying to do. You know what I mean? But also be humble when you win too, right? So you know, you might have one crank that's 10x, and you know you have 5 losers throughout the course of the year. That's okay. If I came out 10x on one deal and I lost 5, did I still come out ahead? I know that I'm going to lose. I know that some of these are not going to pan out. But what's my risk? What's my appetite for the risk? How do I mitigate those losses? How do I hedge my bets? And part of that comes back to what we were talking about earlier, the due diligence. Where am I making these strategic investments? What types of, you know, does it make sense to get into the gummy business if I'm over here in the extraction business? And what's the future of the gummy business? And that is just one thing within a big umbrella of a whole space. And so like hedging your bets effectively is important.
It is. And so this talk is reminding me of just diversifying. I think as an entrepreneur, people, you don't put all your eggs in one basket is kind of I think good advice. You just got to have different sources of income. You don't want to put the pressure on yourself of only having one source of income. But as a startup, you do want to focus. So it's like,
it's as you learn more and as you go through more mentors and as you read more books and as you do more courses and more things and learn more skills, it becomes very, very confusing and very noisy, right? Yeah. They're like, oh, the average millionaire has got 7 streams of income. What they don't tell you is that millionaire made all of his money in one deal or all one company. Yeah. And then he had so much money coming out of that, he was forced to go into real estate and other things for tax purposes. And so I think it's really, really important that like you stay focused on this thing, but also don't drown out the obvious signs of like what is potential opportunities and risks too. Because I think people get laser focused and they think, I got to keep betting on this pony. I got to keep betting on this pony. And it might be, the copy's wrong or the market's wrong or the audience is wrong or the strategy's wrong or, one thing within that thing, but you're like literally like one person, one relationship, one customer, one just a hair off from a wildly profitable thing. So I would say stay focused within that medium, stay focused on what you're working on within your chain, pay attention to the stuff that's around you, let those other diversification things happen later, but be of course paying attention to everybody in the space. I think it's important.
Yeah, and you made a good point the other day in one of your posts. Like a lot of my friends are getting really rich off of crypto and NFTs, and it's hard for me not to get the FOMO on that. Like, but I'm just like, no, I'm not gonna do it, man. I'm staying focused on what I do, and I'm building my audience, and I make I do okay, but it's like my buddy just hits me the other day. I just made $700,000 in crypto. It's like, but it's hard to ignore that.
It is very, very hard to ignore that. And here's what I'll say. We don't invest in the stock market. We don't invest in crypto. We don't invest in a bunch of things. Call me pig-headed, call me whatever. Here's my business model. I buy companies $1 to $5 million. I value add them. I bring sales, operations, and finance, and I exit them for north of 10 million in 24 to 36.
Focus. That's a focus.
Why would I ever jeopardize anything if I know what my predictable outcome is going to be? I would rather take 20% annual returns every single year, predictably, than bet on something that would jeopardize my family that I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I think there's so many crypto millionaires that are coming out and people that bet $10,000 and they turn it into abnormal 20x, 30x, 40x, and they think that that's the normal. And I think that it's creating this source of self-delusion for other entrepreneurs to say, I just need to hit this. I need to place my bet. I need to wake up and this thing needs to be 50x tomorrow. And it creates this like delusions of grandeur of like what may or may not happen. So we start to tell ourselves this lullaby that these things, because this happened, this is going to happen. And that's not the truth. What can I control today? And how do I get myself a predictable outcome? I will always take a predictable outcome for me and my family above all this gambling. I know it seems like gambling because we're buying companies that, seems like a gamble, but on the same token, there's a source of predictability there that the reason we do acquisitions, let's say $1 million company that makes 30% profit margins, that company makes $300,000 a year. I know I'm walking into $25,000 a month in income. Now, let's say I took a loan for the $1 million. The loan would be $8,000 a month. Okay. Can I pay $8,000 by making $25,000 a month already? Absolutely. And guess what? That company has distribution. It has customers. It has shelf space. It has management. It's got a website done. It's got all these things that take weeks to compile for a beginning customer, and you still got to try to pay yourself a normal wage. It takes too much to get a company into orbit versus walking onto something and being like, okay, $25,000 in free cash flow minus the 8. I got $17,000 a month in free cash flow after I pay the debt to pay myself month one. How is that a gamble, right? So,
and would you say, is it the same in the CBD world? Like I feel like it's more risky to buy an existing CBD brand. It's a big risk compared to like a ball bearing manufacturer or something like that. Like just because the industry, like we were talking about earlier, it just moves so much that What are your thoughts on that? Like as far as specifically,
100%. I mean, it's 100% way more risky. A ball bearing manufacturer in Cleveland, Ohio, that's been around for 40 years and has 40 employees, nobody cares about. They make $3 million a year in revenues and $1 million in profits. People are like, cool. It's a ball bearing manufacturer. Like, I have no interest in that, right? CBD, everybody's like, oh, this is hip and this is trendy and this is, I could sell this at the golf club and I could sell this over here and I could blah, blah, blah. It's a trending thing, which has more upside, which has more, you would think, more targets and availability for it. So it is more risky. I think there are more candidates that would want to buy it versus the ball bearing manufacturer.
It's sexier.
Yeah, it's a bit sexier, right? So you have exitability there. And I think as the space becomes more professionalized, when the Johnson & Johnson and the L'Oreals and the Nabiscos and the big Mondelez and all these big players start to come into the space in the food and packaging business, they're going to have the same business model that we do, right? The roll-up strategy where they say, look, we want to buy the gummy manufacturer. I just saw, what's his name? Aubrey Marcus and Joe Rogan. Their company, what's it called?
On it. Yeah.
It got bought by one of the big nutraceuticals companies.
Oh, cool.
Big deal, right? It's a monster deal. But as you start to see some of those bigger players come into the space, they're going to start to buy those companies up at good valuations.
That's massive.
They're thinking the same things. They don't want to go out and create this audience. They don't want to create this customer base. They just want to take an existing product that's already working and put it on their shelves and their distribution. Something that's already widely known that they can. So that's the upside. That's the good news with the CBD business. You have exitability. You have a market that's paying attention. You have people that are interested in your products. And you have a lot of suitors on the other side of the deal.
Yeah, and you just have to be aggressive. Like when I was on the THC side of things, opening unlicensed dispensaries back in the day before the city was not kind enough to give out licenses. I remember one dispensary, I called 150 landlords before I was able to get one to say yes. You just got to go out there and just be aggressive. And it might be the first person you contact. It might be the 200th person.
You got to be resilient in your process either way, right?
Yeah, you got to be aggressive. And like Kyle, we were talking earlier, and I was saying like, what keeps you motivated? But then I was like, do you even have to get motivated? Because you seem so inspired all the time. Like you're just in this flow of inspiration.
I'm a real guy though, so I have bad days. I have good days. Some worse than others. I think here's a big thing that I think, 95% of businesses fail. So a lot of people don't give themselves the room to grow. And I am like completely averse to failure. And so with that, it opens up my mindset to like be inquisitive and try new things and meet new people and do different things without the attachment of the failure part to it. And, I think when you get to that state of flow, everything's an opportunity and everybody's a friend and nobody's a stranger. And we can kind of treat things like that. You can find unique and interesting opportunities to make money, to make friends, to make opportunities and relationships, to get referrals. You get to do all these things. But I'm not motivated by the money anymore. Money's a scoreboard. Money's a metric. It's a key performance indicator, something we're definitely tracking. We can't make all of this stuff work if none of this stuff works, right? And so it's a big, you need, again, 5 problems, 4 of them go away with more money and more sales. But I'm detached from the money and what it actually buys, and therefore makes this a pleasurable experience, right? So building companies, I'm enthralled with the minutia of building things that work and getting into momentum. Us as entrepreneurs thrive off of momentum. I hate when things are done and deadlines are due and something nagging me for something like, quit bugging me with all this nonsense. but where I'm more enthralled in like the process of the momentum. So I try to stay in that state of mind, right?
Yeah.
So that is my motivation to build big things, to do big things, to be connected, to be more, have more, do more, give more. All of these things are really what motivate me. Our pitch here at Acquisitionpreneur is people over profit. I really believe both in building a big business and a big enterprise. I don't care what kind of mousetrap you have, what kind of business you have. Your people represent who you are and what you do. And I firmly believe that your customers are not always right. People like that's controversial, but your people internally are right. And those people are the most important thing that fuels your engine. So what are my motivations? Are giving and being and doing more things for more people. Didn't come from anything. I love to give back, and I love to serve people at a high level and create deep, meaningful relationships. We go to these masterminds, we go to networks, we invest in ourselves a lot. I hate hey, how's the weather? I live in San Diego. It's 72 and sunny always. It's awesome. Right?
That's what I say. I don't do small talk. I do big talk.
I hate it. I hate it.
I only do big talk.
So I try to get to the punchline of like, how do I serve somebody at the highest level with what I can offer in my skill set? And I think that keeps me motivated. Of course, serving my family and everything else that goes along, with being a regular individual too. But
yeah, you're a great father. I watch some of your videos that you post on Facebook. Your kids look really happy. So it's like they're having a good time with dad. Yeah. And another thing you mentioned earlier when we were talking before the interview, you said positive mental attitude. And that comes to me from Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich. Is that where you got that from?
Yeah. And, I went through this process in 2008. I was losing everything. I was in the mortgage finance business. I was losing my houses, my investments, my cars. Everything was on repo. I couldn't pay to get the thing in the hot water heater. There's like an element. It's like a couple $100. I couldn't pay to do that. So I was like showering at my in-laws' house. All these horrible things were happening to me. And I was drinking 7 days a week. And I had a come to Jesus moment. And for 2 years, for 18 months of my life, I just invested in myself. I read a number of books, and I started to reprogram my software of like, all this egotistical behavior, all this, zero-sum activities of sales, and like I got to win and you got to lose for me to win, and all these things. I started to reprogram with giving and doing and serving, and like really thinking about my customer and really thinking about the person that I'm trying to serve and really thinking about the people around me and what I'm trying to accomplish for them. And I think once you take your own self out of that, I can control what happens to me by how I feel about it, but I can't control what actually happens to me, right? And so keeping a positive mental attitude, regardless of what's happening. The house is burning down, right? Like everything is on fire, but I want to know, has the insurance company been called? Did we call the fire department? Are all the pets and animals out of the house? Like, have all of these things been done? And if they have, that's all I can control. So focus on the things that I can control. Focus on the things that how I react to this situation and how everybody else sees me. Everything that my people hear, like if something is going wrong with the customer, something is going wrong with the situation, how am I responding to it? Because all the people behind me are responding and watching how I respond.
Exactly. You lead from the top down for sure. It's so important, like, to have that leadership. And like in organizations that I've been in, like, it's so true. Like when I worked at Nightingale, Vic Conant is one of the most amazing human beings I've ever met. And everybody was just so kind and the energy was vibing, it was a good energy. And so it's definitely from the top down. And, I know your time is valuable. So what would you leave as some wisdom to the CBD brands that are out there? They're just stuck. They're struggling and they want to get to that next level, whether it's going out to get funding or just trying something else, like maybe going after brick and mortar where they've only done direct to consumer. Like what is your advice to those brands that just are stuck at like that 10, 20 grand a month in sales mark?
I would evaluate who you are as a brand. I can't stress this enough that if you cannot take this $3 item and sell it for 12 and know how you're going to sell it to them, how you're going to package and present it to them, you're dead in the water. I don't care how good you are, how big you are, how cheap you can buy your product, blah, 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 all these things. Where is my distribution? What's my message to market match? Who is my audience? And what does that look like? I think, we get paralyzed as business owners. We get paralyzed in the inaction, right? We have to take massive, massive action to say, will this gas station buy this? Will this med spa buy this? Would this small, grocery store chain do this if I could do this? How do I get in front of these people? How do I pitch and present this product to these folks to build myself a distribution network? If I can't do that, there's no use, right? There's no amount of money that I could acquire that could scale the chaos if I haven't figured out who I'm selling to, how much, what the price is, what the look like, who the audience is, all these things. It doesn't make sense to acquire more money is not going to help you, is my point.
Exactly.
If you can't figure out how to sell this. That's why I sometimes sell against myself, right? Like from a private equity standpoint, I'm encouraging people, don't go get private equity. I had somebody come to me in the CBD space that was like, look, I have to fulfill all these orders. I need X amount of millions of dollars. And I have a few deals out there, but they want 50% equity. I'm like, I would want the same thing. If you need millions of dollars, I want 50% of equity too. He's like, well, but if I could do this deal, I could get like 90 days down the pipeline. I could probably get better terms for my suppliers, and I could probably turn this thing around, and I wouldn't have to give away 50% forever. I'm like, you're 100% right. So why don't you raise the money, right? So like, he was able to go out and raise the money. I gave him some key ideas of how to raise the money, how to pitch his message to be able to have the best, highest success rate of potential to raise money so he could talk to the least amount of people as possible and get the greatest amount of money as possible. And he was able to raise a few $1 million and shorten this window for himself and not forfeit half of his company.
Wow.
Because he already knew who he was going to sell it to. He already knew how much he was already going to need. It was basically an inventory financing deal. Yeah. But he called me months later to say, look, man, you saved me 50% of my equity. I'm so grateful for all this. I'm like, don't forget me. Send me a check.
I was going to say, hopefully he sent you a little check or bought you a
Here again, this is a key opportunity. I try to do that, to give away that information as much as possible to save people, because at some point the universe will reward me.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that. I firmly believe if you make time for the people, that you will get retribution at some point.
That was the biggest lesson I learned, actually, or one of the biggest lessons I learned in business. When I was in the music business for years, and a lot of the artists I worked with got record deals and made millions of dollars, and I was their mentor, and I used to expect them to pay me back, and I got so mad at them, and then I realized, no, they don't owe me anything, man. The universe owes me, though.
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it.
That's exactly it, man. I mean, you can't get hung up with that expectations, because you'll drive yourself crazy about it. But if you can keep a light heart about it, I believe that we'll get value. And come to think about it, that contact has introduced me to so many people that I couldn't even quantify the value of those relationships that he's introduced me to, that I hadn't even really thought of until like right now we're talking.
That's incredible. Yeah.
It's just the universe will pay you back in some form or another, but if you can keep that attitude, you'll go very, very far, not only in this business, but in any business.
Man, this has been amazing, Kyle. And people, we're going to be doing this regularly. So me and Kyle will be coming on here talking about different topics. So if you have any comments or topics, just reach out to me. And also, if you want to learn more about acquiring existing businesses to get into those programs with Kyle, reach out to me and I'll talk to you about that. And then also white label or private label or bulk products, we can take care of you there too. So feel free to reach out, people, and we'll be back again probably in a month or so.
If anybody has any questions, direct DM questions, send them on to Matt. I'd love to do Q&A with your people and see how we can serve at the highest level. I know this is a robust group of people. I work best under pressure with direct Q&A questions of like, dude, how do I do this? Right?
Oh, nice.
That I love. So
let's do that next. Then the next one we do, let's do an open Q&A where we'll promote it ahead of time so people have their questions ready, and we'll just put you on the hot seat.
Let's do hot seats, man. I'm in.
Love it, man. So thanks again, Kyle, and follow Kyle on Facebook. Reach out to me if you need anything, people. It's always a pleasure, and we'll be back again shortly with more guests.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks for your time. Talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Take care.